Do you eat breakfast?
Yes, I do eat breakfast.
What does a balanced diet mean to you?
A balanced diet to me means a diet full of vegetables, protein like meats and poultry and fish, and also not fast food.
How many times per week do you eat out?
Probably like every weekend.
Every weekend?
Yes.
All right.
Uh, if it's a good week, probably 2 or 3 times a week.
Well, we are back, and we are talking with Professor Allison Miner about nutrition and what we need to be mindful of. You have given us a lot to think about. This is really a serious and important topic. So can we back up a little bit then and just explain to us what is nutrition?
Nutrition is everything you eat and what it really does to your body. Okay. Now, I know when my daughter was little, she told me one time when I was preparing lunch for her, she said, "Please, Mom, no nutrients for lunch today. Just give me something good to eat." So, you know, from a nutritional standpoint, I think about food in terms of its components, like, you know, what does this have in it? What does this have in it? So I can have a balanced meal for my family.
Do you really think that way as you're preparing your meals and putting it together?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know it's talk to my family, they probably tell you it's a little bit difficult to live with me.
Well, no, it's a good habit. Tell us how we can get into this habit. What do we need to be thinking about?
Well, I think, you know, in terms of nutrition, what are some of the recommendations? Okay. You want to start with a plant-based diet.
Plant-based?
Plant-based diet. Now, plant-based diet does, you know, when people think of that way, they think in terms of celery and broccoli and that's it. Plant-based diet means, you know, wheat, rice,
I see.
you know, lots of different grains, barley.
Okay.
It means legumes, beans,
Yes.
you know, all the black-eyed peas and lima beans and red beans. It means
those are
nuts.
good.
It means nuts and seeds. In fact, I just had a trail mix.
Okay.
'Cause I wanted a little snack.
Okay.
It means dried fruit. It means, you know, the plethora of fruit and vegetables that we have and all the combinations that you can do with all those things that I just named is just amazing.
I see.
Most of your diet should be based on those foods.
All right.
You cannot go wrong if you do that.
Do they fill you up though?
Absolutely. And most of the world, you know, the United States is a little bit different as a, you know, industrialized country.
Sure.
Most of the world is using meat in very, very small amounts. It's only because we are a, you know, quote unquote rich nation that we're using meat to the extent that we do. You need, in terms of a plate, about less than a quarter of that plate should be meat.
Oh.
Okay. Very, you know, people use meat around the world just to season their food. We're using it as our main course. We really should get back to using a plant-based diet as our main course, with meat being a very, very small amount. And that meat should be lean. You should, you know, watch the amount of fat you have. Certainly stay away from butter and the solid fats. Those are the things that we really want to be mindful of.
Solid fats?
Solid fats, those would be like butter, stick margarine, lard. The problem with, you know, when I use that term, stay away from it, oftentimes you can't see it. So when you eat a pie and you think of the pie crust, you don't think that that's solid fat, but a lot of the solid fat. What people should do, okay, my recommendation is to go with a plant-based diet, okay, with a very, very small amount of meat. And that should just be something that you do all week long. And even go some days without any meat. There's no reason why you shouldn't. But the government has a lot of great websites that people can use, and they're very consumer friendly. One is www.mypyramid.gov.
Mypyramid.gov.
Mypyramid.gov.
Okay.
And there you'll find recommendations on what sorts of foods to eat in each of the food groups. So the grain, the meat, beans, egg group, the vegetable, the milk, if you do milk, and what did I leave out?
I don't know. It sounds good to me.
I'd say I left out one thing. Maybe I named them all. And they'll tell you what foods to eat in each category and which ones to stay away from. You even can put in your weight, your activity level, and your age, and it will tell you how many servings you should get from each of those groups. So their guessing game is gone. There's even a diet analysis program called My Pyramid Planner. It's free. This is all free. And you can even input your diet, and it will tell you whether you met those guidelines or not.
Wow.
So it's very easy to use, and it's something that I think that the entire family really should do if you're really interested in doing that. So there are resources on the web for people that are interested. And they have links to all sorts of other things, like if you're pregnant, if you have small children, if you have some sort of disease, if you want to lose weight, All that information is right there on mypyramid.gov. So you do need internet access.
So I think I hear you saying that we will not be heard to use as an excuse that we don't know.
No, and you know, if as anybody that's a lawyer would know that if you get stopped by the police and you say, you know what, I didn't know that you were supposed to stop on red lights, what would the answer be?
That's too bad. Ignorance of the law is no excuse.
Is no excuse. So I think the same thing with if you get a disease. Of course, there's no one there to give you a penalty except
the disease
itself, which is really, talk to anybody that's got heart disease, that's got cancer, that has type 2 diabetes, that has a stroke. If they could go back and make some corrections, I assure you they would tell you that they would do that, and eating that extra pie or those bag of potato chips was not worth it compared to what they have to deal with as they get older.
Well, let's talk about that, the extra pie or the bag of potato chips. Now, sometimes I think that some of the eating that we do is just mindless. We're watching television or we're chatting on the phone or whatever, and we just continue to eat. So what can we do about that?
Well, the first thing, again, let me go back to my mall example.
Okay.
If it's not there, you won't eat it.
All right.
So the first thing I tell people, if they're really interested in going on some kind of diet plan or, you know, improve their diet, you need to go through your house and you need to take out all those foods that do not provide any nutritional benefit. I'm not saying that you shouldn't eat those things. I'm saying they shouldn't have them in your home. Okay. So that if you are going to get them, you're going to do it as a special occasion, or you're going to get in your car and it's going to be an extra effort to drive to the store and buy yourself some cookies. So take all that stuff out. If they're not there, you won't do it. Secondly, have things available that are nutritious that you can grab. So you're talking on the phone and you've got a bag of carrots. What are you going to do? Chances are you're going to eat the carrots.
I see.
Very often I'll put out a bag of carrots, or I'll cut up some apples or celery and I'll just put it on the table and my kids will eat that while they're sitting there computing. And they're not thinking of that. I'm not pushing it on them, but it's because it's there. And that's the way humans work. We do things because it's there.
That's true.
So that's one of the things that you can do to, you know, start out your program.
Okay.
The next thing you want to do is, if you're mindful and it's something that it's a decision that you've made that you want to do, that's part of, you know, change, is deciding this is something I want to do. It's not that you're going to be 100%. You know, I'm still going to go to Baskin & Robbins. I'm still going to go to some other places and grab a cheeseburger every now and then. But if it's a goal for me to be healthy and my children to be healthy, then I'm going to be selecting those things much more often than not.
Okay.
It's something that we just have to put into our minds.
All right. So now let's talk about then, as I'm moving through the kitchen and I'm trying to put something together, what can I just keep in my head? I know that I got to go for the plant-based, but they used to talk about you need to have a meat and a vegetable and a starch. And I used to cringe every time I heard that because the word starch sounded so unappealing to me. What are they talking about, and what should we be thinking about?
Well, the reason why we divide foods up that way, and you know, we divide them up that way because it's easier to learn, it's easier to teach that way. Certainly, you know, whoever created this universe didn't think of food in that way. Because if you eat a plant, for instance, whole wheat, it's got protein in it. It has vitamins, it has minerals, it has fiber, it has lots of different things in it. So nobody's thinking in terms of starch. I think a good thing for people to do is to either get a cookbook. Okay. You can find things on the web. A lot of these organizations like the American Heart Association, the National Cancer Institute, they all have recipes that you can try. I mean, there's so much on the World Wide Web. In fact, it's overwhelming, really.
Yeah, it is.
And you can take those recipes and make them and start trying them for yourselves. The other thing that you can do is you can take your own recipes that you're using and modify them. So instead of using sour cream, you can use a low-fat or non-fat yogurt.
Well, now I have to say, I have a friend who does that, and she has hits and she has misses.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So not everything is going to, you know, be fantastic.
Yeah, but it's not always a good substitute.
That's right. Well, part of, you know, certainly there's some foods that people can think of right now that are really tasty, you know. That
macaroni and cheese.
Okay, macaroni and cheese. But if you do other things in your house to make your meal pleasant and not always focus just on the food itself. So for instance, when I fix dinner, I make sure that the table is set nicely, that there are candles on the table, and that, you know, the people at the table are having a nice conversation, and we are not, you know, talking about the TV's off, so it's not about politics. So that the meal is not just about, you know, whether this is just a delicious macaroni and cheese, but it's we're eating nutritious food and we're enjoying each other's company. And that's part of the enjoyment of the meal. So now if it's only about the taste, then sure, turn on the television, grab a bag of chips and some sour cream, and then, you know, then you're good to go. Yeah, but if you really want to eat nutritiously and you also want to get that family component in there, you'll sit down and you'll have a healthy meal together, and you'll feel just as good about that as you do about eating your macaroni and cheese. I promise you.
Well, now when you put it like that, I cannot disagree, because I'm picturing in my mind this lovely meal. First I got to clean off the table, but okay, let's assume I can do that. Then I can set the table and maybe some music or something in the background. Absolutely. Something that's not controversial to talk about.
That's right.
Yeah, how can you go wrong with that?
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, and we're going to go to a break, and when we come back, we will finish this up. Thank you. Okay. Well, we can't finish it up. We got so much to talk about, but at least we can finish it up for now. Thank you. Do you eat breakfast?
I eat breakfast, but not as much as I'm supposed to.
What does a balanced diet mean to you?
If you're talking about three square meals a day, cereal in the morning, fruit afterwards, for lunch, I guess a sandwich, depends on the type of bread or what type of sandwich you have in general. Dinner, you know, just meat, potatoes, like vegetables and things like that, you know, just stay on, you know, a balanced diet, not just one thing.
Professor Minor, you have given us so much here, and there's just a lot to go on. If you could tell us what we should take away from all this, what's the thing that we should look to as something we can do right now?
First thing is planning. I know nobody wants to plan ahead.
No.
You know, you don't want to think about your retirement,
No.
you don't think about anything else.
No.
But if you plan ahead just a little bit, just a week in advance about what kinds of meals you're going to eat, where you're going to eat even, and what you're going to buy and what you're going to eat, it's going to make a big difference.
Really?
Yeah, in your weight and in your disease, risk for disease. To be good to yourself. You know, every 4 or 5 hours, you pretty much need to eat. You know, we're running on empty. Now, I know sometimes people like to wait until the end of the day, then they overeat. Take the time to have a meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And the third thing is to exercise.
Ooh.
Gotta exercise. Can't get around that. Human body's made for eating nutritious food and for exercise. We can't rewrite the rules of our biology.
Oh my goodness, I wish we could.
Yeah, me too, but you can't.
But we can't. We get what we get. Okay, so we gotta make the most of it, right?
That's right.
Thanks again for joining us with another edition of the McKnight Report, information you really want. Please stay tuned for our next episode because we're going to have lots of hot topics to explore. Thanks.